What is up, friends, lovers, and personal enemies? Welcome to the green. It's a new era, sort of. And this is an idea that was given to me by my friend and old roommate, Amy. And also, I was kind of asked to do another book video by the lovely Iris, whose channel I will link below. So Amy was like, you should make a list of all of the books that you think everyone should read. Because there's always all these lists in there just like, you should read, what's a stupid book? The Phantom of the Opera and Of Mice and Men. No. So basically, I have put together my own top 10 list, and then I'll have some additional honorable mentions. So let's get into this. Book number 10 is Call Me By Your Name. Ah, so gay. So bad age gap. But, like, the book is beautiful. The writing in this book is beautiful. It is so lyrical and, like, stunning. And it's way better than the movie. It's way better. And, like, I know we all love Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer? Is that his name? And Timothy Chalamet.
What up, statistics class? I'm coming through live on G25.
And we love the movie because it's beautiful. However, like, I cannot explain to you, this is way better. This is one of the best books I read last year. And I think everyone should read it because it's, like, it's beautiful. It's just, like, so, I guess, like, cathartic in a way to read something that's so pretty. It's, like, the same level of lyricism as Lolita, but better than Lolita. And also way gayer. So then we have Bury It by Sam Sax. This is not number 9 because I met him, but I did meet him. I think it's my favorite book of poetry that I've ever read, and yet it's not higher up on the list. I'm sorry. But it's just, like, so gorgeous, and it's, like, so Jewish and gay, and the way that Sam really plays around with form is, like, amazing to me. I love it. I really struggle with playing around with form, and I just feel like he gets it. He's just like, he's a great reader. Like, when he reads poetry, it's really good, but it's not the same as reading it yourself. I feel like there's just something about the way that he has put his words down on the page that cannot translate to speech. I don't know. It's really good. All of these books are 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 for me, 10 out of 10. It's all the same. But this one's really good. I recently reread it because Sam was coming to my place of work. Just, like, the talent. He's really talented is what I'm trying to say. Then for number 8, I feel like a lot of people will feel the same way about this book as they did about Call Me By Your Name. But I'm sorry. It's Perks of Being Wallflower by Chbosky. Like, you can see that this book is well worn, but I think it's because I lent it to someone and they destroyed it. It's just so good. It's so good. And I feel like there's a lot of things that the movie kind of, like, wasn't able to translate, which is really, I think they didn't really, well, Stephen. I think the letter format was way better in the book, but it's amazing, beautiful. I feel like it really, like, it's so hard to explain, but, like, my life is in this book. Like, the trauma is there. Bad stuff that went down in high school is there. And then the Rocky Horror stuff is, like, my senior year and then, like, parts of college. Like, it just, I know it sounds like I'm saying, like, you should read this to, like, get to know me, but it's good, Oh my god, I sound so stupid. What I'm trying to say is this one also has a lot of lyricism, but it's got this real sense of reality that Call Me by Your Name doesn't have. Plus I love angsty teenagers. I was going to put Catcher in the Rye on this list, but instead it's an honorable mention. This is better than Catcher in the Rye, but they have the same sort of level of angst to them. You might notice that as a theme that I really relate to teenage boy angst. If only I wasn't annoying. Now we move on to number 7. The Green Book by Jill Patton Walsh. I don't have the book with me, but I read it multiple times when I was a kid, and I'm sure a lot of you watching are like, I know the Green Book. It's really good, obviously. It's about like this... It's written by this girl. Her and her family and like some other people are like, the Earth's gonna die. We're the last people to get on this rocket ship and go goodbye. But they're only allowed to take one book with them. And she takes a journal, whereas everyone else takes actual books. And eventually they get to this planet. And the planet's really interesting. I think it might be the perfect fantasy book. I know. Very controversial opinion right there, but I really think it is. I'm not gonna like explain anymore because it would give the whole thing away, and the book is like maybe 100 pages at best, but it's really good. I think it's required reading. I think it's essential for every person to read it. This one, I would like to put it higher up, but the other books that I have are better. And that is Howl by Allen Ginsberg. This is the best book? No. It is the best poem that's ever been written. I don't know how else to explain it. 90% of people who have read this poem, the first poem, not the other poems that are like the and other poems part, no, Howl. Most people who have read Howl say that it has changed their life.
I know a lot of things, but I don't know about that. I'm not sure why.
Myself, my best friend from middle school through most of high school, even though we're estranged now, and Lana Del Rey. This poem, it makes poets. I didn't start really taking poetry seriously until I read this poem. And now look at me. Poetry is like, people think, what is Jessie? What are they? They're like,
oh my goodness, she's disgusting.
They're like, writer. What kind of writer? Poetry. This one will change your life. I can't guarantee that the ones that came before it will. I would like them to, but I cannot guarantee that for you. Whereas I can absolutely guarantee that for Howl. It also like is a real detriment, I think, to society that Howl isn't included in like required reading for like schools, but I also understand why. Howl is also a lot of the basis and reasoning for current censorship around books and like what books are not really censored, because basically after this book came out, it went to trial for being too obscene. Now we have book number 6, which actually I think I read this one last year. So I might have been wrong about Call Me By Your Name being the best book I read in 2019, because I think it was actually The Gilded Razor by Sam Lansky. Beautiful, stunning. Oh, so good. I love this book. So basically, back when Chris Clemens and Christine Sidelko had their podcast, they had Sam come to like talk on the podcast, and he talked about this book, and it just sounded amazing and so interesting, and I was like, gonna read it. So then I immediately ordered it, and it's the best memoir I have ever read, for sure. I really like memoirs. I really like nonfiction. No surprise there. But this book is about addiction, so trigger warning if you're gonna read it. It's sort of about like how he got into drugs like in high school and then eventually got addicted to meth, but he doesn't really talk about his meth addiction, which I wish he talked about more. That's a common theme with people who have meth addictions, is that, like, they can kind of explain up to the addiction. They can't explain what happened during the meth addiction, and then they can talk about afterwards. How do I know that this is a theme? Because it exists in this book, it exists in Jonathan Van Ness's book, and it exists in David Sedaris's books. It's a theme. I mean, this book is stunning, stunning, stunning. I really think this one will change your life. Elsa can also vouch for me. This book is really freaking good. Then book number 4 I also don't have. But I don't have it because Elsa's currently reading it. And so book number 4 is How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's probably because he's written multiple bestsellers. He wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, which is kind of like the environmentalist Bible, which is stupid because the book's not that good. But also, this book is about, like, it's so good. It's so good. It's like 450-ish pages of the experience of, well, it's a lot of things. It's like the underground psychedelic research scene, the history of psychedelic research, where psychedelic research is now that people are actually, like, getting grant money to do that research, what those findings are, what it's like to personally be on psychedelics, and a little bit about, like, the brain chemistry of, like, what actually is happening to your brain when you're on psychedelics. And so the idea, well, not the idea, sort of like generally what research has shown is that the use of psychedelics can help with, like, a lot of life transitions. So, like, if you're going from pre-middle age to, like, middle age, or, like, middle age to being old, it can sort of, like, help reduce some of your anxiety over death. And, like, for that same reason, it has been proven very helpful in people who are terminally ill with things like cancer. It's been really helpful for getting over nicotine addiction, and most interestingly, alcohol addiction. Specifically, the person who created AA created it as a result of their experience with psychedelics. And, like, a lot of the reasons that it's, like, able to sort of, like, help you overcome these sort of, like, mental blocks or mental hurdles is because it, like, does this thing to your brain where it, like, I can't really explain it as well as the book does, but it, like, sort of, like, loosens your synapses that help you sort of process everything in the way that you've already always processed it. So, like, your experience of reality becomes, because, like, those synapses are loosened, it's more like you're experiencing things for the first time because those connections aren't connecting in your brain. What I love about Michael Pollan in his writing is that he's so frickin' thorough. He goes basically through, like, the history, and then he talks a little bit about research, and then he goes and he does the thing. This is the sort of the same thing with The Omnivore's Dilemma, but it's really great with this book because he not only does, like, one psychedelic, he does LSD, psilocybin, and the toad, which you can read it in the book. And then he explains a little bit more about the actual, like, science. And it's really great. I think that structure works really well because you get not just, like, sort of like a scientific, like, faraway view of things that he's talking about, but you also get a view of him, like, his personal experience, which I think helps to make some of his arguments, like, or, like, explanations really strong and fortified. Highly recommend that book. I think that's the best book I've read this year, and I don't think I'm going to read anything better. I think about it constantly, and if I had the time, I would reread it. Then we have book number 3, finally. my man's. My Algerian King, if you will. I know he's French, but he's French-Algerian. So, Albert Camus, The Myth of Sisyphus. Here's the thing. Camus sucks in French. Like, horrible, awful writer. I don't know how anyone was like, he's a classic. No. It is this specific translator who, any of these sort of like geometric black and white covers, these are the ones that you want to read. It's translated by Justin O'Brien. He's amazing. This is a bunch of essays. It is life-changing. If there's one book that you read out of this bunch, it should be The Myth of Sisyphus. It is just like this amazing... It's amazing. It's like an analysis of several different sort of like literary works. Like, not really literary works, but I guess like myths, and like commonly known sort of like themes and stuff. But as you'll see when I talk about the number one book, it's more than just that. It's so much more. Then this takes me to number 2, Stan Vibes, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Yes, this book is like 1,000 pages. I don't want to hear about it. This one changed my life, for sure. I read it in high school. This was my like book that I read over the summer for my senior project for when I get back to school and I have to write a book report. It is like Anna Karenina is what we've needed from so many heroines. Because, like, she's not a heroine. She's an anti-hero. The story is about, like, Russian society versus, like, the proletariat and, faithfulness versus infidelity. It's so good. It's so good. And even more than this book, I'm going to recommend you go and you watch Anna Karenina, the 2014 movie with Aaron Johnson and Keira Knightley. Just a moment for how gorgeous she is. One moment. I tend to really like classics. Sorry. But I think this is a piece of the canon that is truly worth reading. There's a lot of them that really are just like garbage, but Anna Karenina is amazing. I really like Tolstoy. War and Peace is trash except for the 8th section of the book, which is really just Natasha Peer and the Great Comet of 1812. But I digress. There's a reason it's number 2 on my list. And finally, we get to number 1, which if you know me, you knew was coming. It's Invincible Summer by Hannah Moskowitz. This book is the reason that I stalked her. And now we text every day and have a podcast. Like, I read this book when it was a galley, which is like an advanced reader's copy, basically. I used to be part of this, like, teens read these books and whatever. They read these books and they give feedback to the publisher. This was one of the first books I ever read in that program, and it obviously changed my life in a lot of ways. I've read this book 9 times. Actually, I might have read it 8, but I think it's 9. And here's what I have to say, is that yes, there's a lot of quotations of Camus in it, and a lot specifically from The Myth of Sisyphus. So, like, if you're gonna read this book, I think maybe this one should come next. Like, read them as a pair. But I love Hannah so much. I'm gonna sign her ketubah at her wedding. Like, we're really friends. I'm trash. Here's what she wrote to me when I got her to go to coffee with me. She says, "To Jessie with so much love, invincibly, keep on trucking. And then she drew a Star of David, because she's an icon. My cats are breathing really heavily behind me for no reason. Hannah is just, oh, she's the best. She's so talented. But, like, she hates me for saying this. I really think this is her best book. She has another book coming out next summer, though. So who knows? Maybe it'll be better. It probably will be. I'm really looking forward to her next one. Don't hate me for this, but there is this one guy in the Talmud. He has one quotation ever. And what he says is about the Torah. And he says, you should turn it over and over again, because they're scrolls, for everything is in it. And that's exactly how I feel about this book. Everything is in this book. I get something new out of it every time I read it. This book is like under 300 pages. It takes me a day and a half to read at this point, and I get something new out of it every time. And it emotionally wrecks me every time so bad that after I finish it, I'm a huge bitch for the rest of the day because I don't want to cry. I need my therapist to come back from maternity leave. Like, thinking about it, I'm really trying not to tear up. Like, I love this book so much. And if you want to read it and for whatever reason you have, like, no money. Actually, it's not for whatever reason. We're in a pandemic. If you want to read it and you lost your job, message me. DM me. I will buy you a copy of this book. Although if I get like 30 DMs, I can't. I'm imagining this is like, I get 2. But it never hurts to ask me. I love this book. It changed my life. I really think it will change yours. Yeah, like, I know I'm a Jewish professional and that it sounds so bad to be saying this, but like, this is the Torah to me. And Hannah wrote this when she was like 17. I hate her. She's too talented. I'm gonna fucking fight her. Ear cleaning time is over. Remy has decided it's feeding time now. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Iris, this one was for you. And, like, if you're gonna read any book, it has to be Invincible Summer. That one's insanely good. There really wasn't that many in any particular, like, age group or genre. I really tried to keep it a good mix. So I feel like I gave you guys a really good mix of, like, what I think is required reading. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for making it this far in the video. If you want, you can go and listen to my podcast with Hannah. That's called Maybe We've Been a Little Too Harsh. It's on Anchor, and you can listen to it literally anywhere you want. I think I might still have my portfolio link in the bottom, just because, like, I write a lot, and, like, if you're curious or bored, you could look at it. And as always, it would be awesome if you followed my social media. So I'm at Jessie_Quinn everywhere on the internet. Remy has gotten back up on the bed, so you know what that means. It's time to say goodbye. Thank you again so much for watching, since I cannot say goodbye enough times. And I'll see you next time.
Mamma mia, here I go again. My, how could I resist ya? Mamma mia, does it show again? My mind, just how much